All right. Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing this morning? That's a little bit more like it. First of all, good morning. Chris Alexander, hello. Paul Richard, hello. I play six string. What's going on, my man? Ron, I believe that is. Gord, what's happening? I'm getting there. Mr. Griffin Gaines, I should say Dr. Gaines. Got a little special thing going here thanks to you, my dear friend. All right. I am just kind of running straight into the ever amazing Badlander 50 combo, which just is kind of never ceasingly amazing. So it's just the amp straight out into my Apollo interface. A little bit of delay. I tell you what, a little bit of delay and reverb, but let's hear a little bit of that with a little bit of any of that. Here it's just the sound all on its lonesome. Needs to say you add a little bit of the secret sauce, a little bit of reverb. Add a little delay. I digress. Holy cow. Okay, let me see if I can make some sense of all of this goodness. All right, who else we got here? Mike Rand, good morning. I'm already breaking a sweat. All right. Griffin, hey. Lost power for a while, but lucky, no damage. All right. Hey, Jordan, what's going on, my man? No time like the present. Lisa, thank you very much. By the way, let's take a quick moment and do the obvious. Let's raise them up. All right. Most importantly, let me know where you are and what it is you're drinking. I have to throw some thank yous up to my dear friend Dr. Griffin Gaines. He sent this coffee through from the Fresh Market. This is straight from New Orleans. And here it is with my favorite Optavia shake in the Tony Lucchese signature mug. This, first of all, was a birthday present, so thank you very much, Griffin. Greatly appreciated. Also, all the people that have sent all the wonderful birthday wishes, I am so thankful and so grateful. And Lisa, yourself excluded, though I have a feeling that might be Jim. In any case, also my buddy Chris Alexander was kind enough to send this lovely card. It really was like, you know, the great thing is that, you know, we never kind of get, we got some feedback here. Hang on a second here. Let's bring it in. Nectar of the Gods, Southern Sweet Tea. How did I know? All right, excellent, excellent. Wake black tea with a dash of milk. I guess a dash. I love that. Okay, Jordan, Saskatoon. What does SK stand for? Saskatchewan. Got it. Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Drinking whatever my wife, who loves me more than I deserve, makes for me. I love that. All right, Ron, what do you got there? At the end of my coffee in Dayton, Ohio. Come on. Coffee was 3 hours ago. Saskatchewan. Okay, I got that right. Yes, sir. Chris, it's the season. All right. Well, first of all, I have managed to detune this a little bit. Second of all, I'm always, you know, thrilled and pleased to see everybody here. I've had kind of a wonderfully busy week, so it may be a slightly different show in a really good way. First of all, you know, I always try and spend some time before we kind of get together, kind of thinking about what it is that is on my heart to kind of share with you guys as well. And, you know, one of the things that's really important to me is helping other guitar players get better. And one of the things that I've been kind of working on is some stuff on the high E string. And we're just going to jump right in, and we're going to get to Chris's questions in a little bit. And there was one that I actually didn't answer last week that I'm going to come back to. And it was actually about a really great question. We're not going to go crazy insane on inversions and stacked chords and whatnot, and slash chords and whatnot. But he asked a question about kind of using an inversion as a leading tone into a key, and I was thinking about that. And if we're in the key of A major and we take a one chord, I'm actually going to go there. I'm going to clean this puppy up. A major, D major, and E major are the 1, 4, and 5 in the key of A. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. I'm actually in the key of A today. Defaulted from the usual G. But the point being is if I go 1 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, that 5 chord is the E. And if I play that E major in first inversion, we get that G sharp, which per Chris's question, can an inversion kind of be a leading tone? And I was like, you know, it's actually a really great question that... So I know 1 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, 5 chord in first inversion, where we got that G sharp instead of the E, G sharp B instead of the E in the bass or the B in the bass. We got that G sharp in the bass, and that's that leading tone of A major. And it really sets up the resolution really well. So it was a great question, and that's as far as I'm going to rabbit trail into that at the moment. The other thing that's interesting about this lovely guitar that I'm playing is I discovered that I have worn the frets down so much that tuning by the harmonic at the 12th fret, the way the guitar is set up right now, I got to take it over to Gary Barrett. I just need to refret it. And after 2.5 years of obscene amounts of guitar playing, I've worn this thing down to the point where the intonation is not working properly. So if you see me kind of doing tuning by the open string, so let's talk about tuning for a moment. First of all, if you have a locking fine tuning tremolo, what will quite often happen is there'll be a downward and an upward spot where the tremolo likes to sit. This is especially the case if it's floating and it's an older tremolo. And the way to test this is to kind of tune the guitar up. Usually what I do is I use the 12th fret harmonics, and then I'll hit a chord and I'll depress the bar. And this guitar is set so you can't pull up on the bar, but if you can pull up on the bar, then you pull up on the bar and you hit a chord again. And quite often, the older the guitar gets, what will start to happen is the knife edges of the bridge will start to wear out. And you notice there's a lower and an upper spot. In any case, ultimately, we kind of have to choose which of those two we go with. Most of the time, I go with the lower spot because when we have a tendency to bend, it will pull the tremolo into that lower position. That is to say, anytime I use the bar, I'll just do a little dip at the end to kind of push it into the lower position. Harmonic at the 12th fret generally yields the best results. Why? Because when you hit the open string, every so often, especially on a cheaper tuner, you notice the needle jumps around. And it's actually hearing all the harmonics that start ringing up and down the string versus the select harmonic at the 12th fret. Hence the story here is I was tuning this guitar at the 12th fret. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And so the way you test the intonation is you hit the harmonic at the 12th fret, and you hit the note at the 12th fret, and you try not to push the string or pull it in one direction or another. And you really try and come down as gently as you can, straight on top of the string with as little pressure as possible, and test the note there. And if that note is flat, it basically means the saddle needs to be brought closer to where that note is. It's equivalent of if it was too far down the neck and you're playing an A flat instead of an A. Similarly, if it's sharp, what you got to do is you have to actually pull the saddle a little further away. You hit the harmonic, you test the note, hit the harmonic, test the note, so on and so forth. It can be a slightly aggravating process for some, or for others, it can be a great process. But regardless, having a guitar that plays in tune is a big deal. One of the other things you want to be aware of is many guitars, this C here at the 1st fret on the 2nd string, has a tendency to play sharp. And this can be a little bit of a problem in that is so prevalent in so many songs, especially those that include open position chords. So there are a couple of things you can do about it. Number one is beginning and some intermediate players have a tendency to put the fingers down one finger at a time. And what ends up happening is that usually means that the first finger that goes down, which in this case is the finger of the note that wants to play sharp compared to the others, once you get up to the 2nd or 3rd fret, this string doesn't have a tendency to have the problem it does. But basically what's happening is that because of where the nut is, there's some extra height between the nut and the 1st fret. And so what ends up happening is the string ends up kind of going like that, where the further you get away from it, it's less of an angle, and it doesn't have a tendency to go sharp like that. So a well-cut nut will compensate for that. But most of the instruments that are out there, that 1st fret will play just a little bit sharp. And so you want to be conscious of tuning by the 12th fret harmonic and going, let me take a look at that. And I encourage you to kind of go through all your guitars, check the 12th fret harmonic, check the note and see if it's in tune, and then go play that 1st fret. And you're going to find probably half of them that note plays a little bit sharp. Some of them a lot sharp. In any case, the key there is to put all the fingers down at the same time and be conscious that you only put enough pressure to make the note fret, and that will make it play much more in tune. All right, Doppler's tuning notes there. All right, hey, what's going on, Rick? Good morning, my friend. There we go. Littleton, Colorado. Raise them up. Headstock Harem, freshly ground coffee in Kringle, Wisconsin. I love it. We are kind of well, we're not quite international yet, but we're getting there. Time for steel frets. So this is an interesting thing. Here we go. And by the way, today is going to be a little bit of an anything goes day. I do have Chris's questions that we're going to get to in a moment. So one of the conversations Gary Breyer and I have had is about, to whether to use stainless steel frets. I actually don't like the feel of stainless steel frets in this moment. There may come a time where I actually do, but they feel, dare I say, a bit steely. And the advantage of stainless steel frets. Hello, Eric. Awesome. Thank you, and great to see you. Always a lovely collection of guitars with you. All right, so the deal is, the challenge, I didn't talk about the workaround for this. So if you find you're just playing a little section where that C is going to be prevalent, tune the guitar to work around that note and try and play it as in tune as you can. All right, now, let's get back over to here real quick. There we go. And so the steel frets, Uh, I actually prefer the softness of kind of a traditional Dunlop, about a 61 or a 6105. The stainless steel frets feel a little hard for my taste, and I like to feel. First of all, it's not just that they're hard, which means they don't wear out, but it's also the way I can feel the string interacting with the fret and conducting that energy down into the fingerboard and back. So there's this kind of this vibration that happens when you hit the neck, and the stainless steel frets. They don't feel good underneath my fingertips, but I will say, I'm about to spend several $100s on a refret, and I'm as close to giving them a try as I've ever been. So it's a great suggestion, Griffin. Do you have any steel frets, stainless steel frets on any of your guitars? So I take it you're talking about the photo book, the kind of coffee table book. I think I saw a prototype of that, or some of the photos, and it looks really exciting. So I think I'm going to end up with one of those. Order the new practice amp from Spark. First of all, thank you again, Tony. Raise them up. This is the official Tony Lucchese signature coffee mug. And the amp sounds. I saw the guitar from the book on Reverb for 80K. There you go. Yeah. So you know what? Let's take a quick moment and talk about something here. And I'm gonna feed off the comments today, because I want to actually I want to talk about things that really, again, one of the important things, which is kind of really how do I serve this community. One of the things we will talk about today is some alternate picking technique and kind of helping building your speed. We're going to get to that in just a moment. Okay, so in terms of these things that you see, it's kind of the classic thing is if it looks like it's too good a deal, it's too good a deal. Every so often something shows up and somebody gets a crazy, insane deal, but if it looks like it's just too good to be true, just take my word for it. A good 80% of the time, it is too good to be true. The opportunity, of course, comes. Get in your vehicle, go over to it, check it out, know what you're looking at. But I was talking with somebody at dinner last night, and my dear friend Brad, and he was talking about how he ended up with a Fender Custom Shop guitar that a guy had bought as a Fender Custom Shop guitar that he bought for pennies on the dollar of what the guy paid, because the guy didn't buy a custom shop guitar, With instruments like that, usually there is a COA, a certificate of authenticity, but even those can be faked. So just kind of like if it's too cheap, the other thing is that go out and go on to Reverb and look at comps, comparables, and just kind of go, okay, I'm looking at subtle details. Like back in the olden days, before the West was one of the things that you could do in looking at vintage guitars is you would look at the pickguard screws. It's one of kind of the tell signs. Does the pickguard and the electronics look original to the instrument? Are the screws the era appropriate screws? Headstock, looking at the tuning gears, all the things you kind of begin to make a list of all the things you can potentially look for. Is when on a vintage Strat, if you take off the neck, at the base of the neck, there'll be a date code for that. Quite often there'll be date codes elsewhere, and other things that you can date, like the pots sometimes will be stamped with a date, so on and so forth. So you begin to look for things, and if you go on, Reverb is a great resource for it, because quite often the really good dealers will pull the instruments apart, and you'll see all these little things detailed that people know to look for. There was a guy at a guitar show that had what he swore was a 50 Strat that I was like, nah, he got ripped off for like 30 grand. And now these days it's more. So Ernie Ball uses compensated nuts. So so the whole point about a compensated nut is that it's compensated for the fact that in particular that second string wants to play out of tune at the first fret. And it's a stickler when you kind of go, oh, snap, no wonder that always plays out of tune. But at least then and you can compensate for it. All right. Evo gold frets rock better, far better than stainless by far. Thank you for that, Tony. That good to know. Yes, several. There we go. And here's the thing. I think it's one of those things that once you get used to it, and more importantly, not having to refret your guitars, literally, 2.5 years. That is a very short period of time. But I play this guitar just so much, it's just a thing. Bonjour, Stefano. How you doing? Como estai? I've never installed a trem setter, but I assume you have one installed. So this particular guitar, what's set up about the way, the way we've got it set up is you're not supposed to do this, but you're going to hear it's coming back against the body. So the FRX Floyd Rose, and I don't know what FRX stands for, but basically it's a top mount Floyd Rose that you don't have to mount. I should say you don't have to route the back of the body to install, which I love. And there's basically a little round ball that was originally came with that. And so it's set up against kind of, if you will, there was a little channel on the side of the tremolo that when you push down or pulled up on the bar, and it kind of, because of the tension between the strings and the springs, they pull the guitar kind of back into tune. It was supposed to set on the channel. And I found that after the severe amount of flogging that I was doing, the little mount that ball sat on started to push out, and we couldn't just get it to sit perfectly in tune. So we made the decision on this particular guitar to make it so you can only push down on the bar. We have another tremolo from the good people at Floyd Rose that is now sitting at Gary Barrow's shop with basically the identical guitar to this within a year or so of production. And we're going to put DiMarzio noise canceling P90s probably in the bridge and the neck position. They're waiting there. And then a saturator, or a sat track rather, in the middle position. This is the 36th anniversary PAF, which is the strangest sounding pickup ever. Great sounding pickup. I don't mean the pickup sounds strange. I mean the name, 36th anniversary PAF. This is the Sustainiac, which for right now we're not going to put a Sustainiac in that other guitar yet. And then a Virtual 2 middle model, which is basically a hum canceling narrow aperture. So if you think about a humbucker, it's a wide aperture pickup. That is to say, it hears the strings from two different locations, where a single coil hears it from one. So a single coil has a tendency to have a narrower sound because it's hearing the string from one location as opposed to a blend of locations. And that blended sound gives usually a wider sound. So as an end result, narrow aperture pickups have a tendency to just be a little bit less wide. Okay. So the tremolo is, we put one on one of the guitars. So basically it kind of does the same thing except for in the back. It's a set adjustment that makes it so the guitar, the way the tremolo works, and the way, as I recall, it makes it so the way the claw works is that it sits against the body. Usually there are, well, not usually, to the best of my knowledge, there's always two screws fitting into the body here-ish. Those go in, the claw kind of grabs that, and then the spring's attached to the claw, the spring's attached to the bridge, so on and so forth. You begin to whammy. What the tremolo does is it gets in there and it makes it such that you can't pull up on the bar. So it's this adjustment that sits in between the claw and the bridge that you can adjust it, and then it can only push down. It's actually a very clever device. So yeah, mine are vintage stainless. Some say it's harder to bend with those size. I got it. But I don't know, it's a huge difference. Maybe it's because I use 9s and 10s for strings. Awesome. And yes, that's the deal. And so the biggest thing about the tremolo, where guitars have a tendency to go out of tune the most, is when you start being able to push down and pull up for the reasons that I went into. And I should probably grab a guitar to demonstrate what I'm talking about, because when you hear it, you go, oh, okay. And you know what to look for and how to test it. And if you have any guitars with locking fine-tuning tremolos, this will kind of allow you to kind of know why sometimes it's just not staying in tune for you. So this is my vintage Kramer with a vintage Floyd Rose, probably the original Floyd Rose that came on this guitar. And chances are, if I, and there's nothing guaranteeing that this puppy is going to be in tune, so let me take a quick moment and tune it. Paul, I'm going to get to your question in just a moment. Let me tune real quick. So again, so notice dipping of the bar. First place I start, because again, on a guitar like this, chances are the tremolo is going to have a lower and upper spot it's going to sit at. So without even thinking about it, I just like instinctively just put this part of my forehand on the tremolo and just do a little dip like that. Harmonic at the 12th fret, playing a little sharp. And I don't necessarily need to go through and tune everything, but I will since I'm going to play a little bit. So now, if I hit a chord, in theory, it should be relatively. The Floyd, to its credit, plays in tune there at the first fret there. All right, let me get into the bridge. All right, so if I just depress the bar, there it is at A. You can see it. Let's see, let me do this right here. So there, El Sharpo, in tune, pulling up on the bar. You can see that when it goes into the red there, it's gone sharp. So that's because the tremolo, after years of abuse, including some of my own, so kind of a mild flogging. Generally will have very little destructive quality on the tremolo. It's not. Tone was down. That sort of stuff. The fun stuff. That sort of stuff. The fun stuff is what has a tendency, I'm steaming my glasses, is what has a tendency to basically there is what's called a knife edge. And the string, come here, Mr. Drawer, there we go. We'll have, sorry, the string fits into the bridge sits against a pair of knife edges, 1, 2, sorry, let me re-explain, that wasn't accurate. The string sits into the bridge. In this case, it clamps with a basically a locking mechanism that you use a 3mm Allen wrench most of the time. And don't forget it on the way to the gig, and always bring an extra one. And you basically clamp it there. And in turn, there are a pair of studs that sit down to the body like, and then in turn, there's 1, 2 spots that are called knife edges that sit up against those studs. 2 studs and 2 knife edges. So what begins to happen, like the webbing of my finger, if I begin to push down on that webbing that kind of comes to one point flattens out and pancakes out a little bit, and you end up with 2 points that instead of ending up with a 1, you end up with 2. And that is the equivalent of the downward and the upward tremolo position. And so the deal is, generally speaking, if I'm at the downward spot, come on, let me see you, Mr. Tuner here. Come on. And then I kind of, and I then pull to the upward spot, and I do a little bend. Voila, it pulls itself to the downward spot. So the solution is, let me explain what I did again. If you push the tremolo down, the tremolo will sit at the lower spot once it kind of starts to wear out. If you pull it up, it'll sit at the upper spot. The challenge is, if you tune to the upper spot and do a bend, usually what will happen is the tremolo, because of the pressure of the bend, will pull itself to the lower spot, and all of a sudden you're like, my guitar's out of tune. And that is to say, if you don't know that it's doing that, you don't know that it's doing that. So the deal is that depressing that, giving the strings, if you can unclamp it, a little bit of a pull such that you can kind of get some equilibrium, that when you do unclamp the strings, which I do as infrequently as I possibly can, which is the point where you kind of level your fine tuners so you have enough throw that you can go either way once you clamp the instrument down. Different guitars, depending when you clamp it, you have to have some extra leeway because more often than not, the string will go sharp when you clamp it. Some strings have a tendency, sometimes it's the G string, sometimes it's the B string, they go extra sharp. So you have to compensate for that and push this, in the downward direction, which is basically making go sharp. You overcompensate it such that when you clamp the guitar, then you can kind of bring it back into tune and then have reasonable amount of play, such that over the life of that clamping, if you will, you can adjust the fine tuner to taste. And that will work wonders to change your tremolo world. Let me take a look at said comments here. So yeah, I'd be curious. Pull that puppy out. Okay, so hey, let me just do this real quick before I forget Paul's question. All right, so you were hearing a combination of the direct signal, which you'll hear now, and then some of the bleed. And some of the bleed from the speakers going into my talkback microphone. So, really pretty sound, and at this point, I was getting ready to do this gig the other night, and I just, there's a certain point where you're like, all right, the pencil's coming out, I'm notating where the settings are, and so it's not necessarily set for this guitar, it's really set for the V. There's a point where you're kind of like, oh, I think that's going to be one of the home bases. So, great question, happy to answer. The tremolo seems a little too restricted for me. I'll install a trem setters. Seems like the most production models are coming out with them stock. So I haven't played the trem setter. I have spent a bunch of time with the tremolo. I'm trying to remember which guitar it was in because it would be something that didn't have a Floyd on it, most likely. Because generally, aside from the kind of the wearing out of this, the knife edges, once they kind of are set up right, they seem to be pretty darn stable. And if I missed saying hello, Brett, great to see you, my friend. Always a pleasure. Okay. Floating trems seem to throw the bent notes off. So the thing about the if I do a bend on a floating trem, what I'm doing is I'm fretting this eighth fret note there with my pinky. And when I bend the third string, as in, it's pulling this note. But a little bit of vibrato. You got to kind of compensate a little bit such that when you end up, it's a little bit out of tune, but you play with enough confidence that when the two notes kind of work together, that they sound like they're in tune. That is to say, this guy's going to go flat, but that'll be a little tiny bit flat, but you add a little bit of vibrato. That'll say, I bet it. So if you listen here, it's beating, B-A-D-I-N-G. Wah, 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 wah. that note will be going flat, but so if you get it to where they're not beating anymore, they're kind of in tune with each other. And add a little bit of vibrato, the rest of the world's not going to know. Yes, they do. All right. So, why I don't use tremolos live? So the moral of the story is, if when you do use the bar for using a tremolo live, you can put it back in the lower position. It makes it happy, and it's a good thing. All right, good. Rochelle, how you doing? Good morning. Great to see you. All right, G Brat, what's going on, my man? Hold on, let's click on the right image there. At one point, we're going to do something either here or here is a YouTube video about how to pack a guitar if you need to sell it. And nobody knows more about how to pack great guitars and once they've sold them, and how to sell great guitars that need to be packed than my buddy over there at G Brat. What's going on, my man? All right. Hello, Melissa. Brent Milligan, what's going on? 1 year older, getting better and better. Well, thank you very much. Very kind. Thank you. Great to see you as always. All right. This guitar, it's got a really lovely vibe to it. It sounds markedly different than the V, no surprise, but because the tremolo is floating in both directions, it's definitely there's a bunch of things you can do with this instrument. It's a funny thing. So I'm going to briefly rabbit trail before we move on to our next point. And thanks, Rick. Much appreciated. Good morning, John. Always a pleasure. Thanks for popping in and saying hello. That's a funny thing. Eric, hello, my dear friend. Great to see you. Always a pleasure. Very kind. All right. Oh, I love that. All right, what's going on, Shane? Great to see you as well. Hello. Okay, getting back to the question. So, Chris, what do I use to lube the studs? So, Gary Brower does all the work on my guitars. I generally do as little as possible because I leave, try and put the right person on the right seat of the bus. I'm much better playing them and kind of going, okay, this is what I want to do. That said, I did, and I'm really glad you got there. So let me see. I did a. There we go. Oh, lucky me. All right, this guy right here. No, that's not it. All right. Gosh darn it. Ah, I brought. Hang on, just one sec. Now the thing about a flying V that I love is you basically, in many instances you don't need a music stand for it. There we go. This should get us where we need to get to. All right. I want to encourage each of you. There are a couple of things about this that are that I really love. And there are a couple of things about this that I... Oh, poop. So this is the Ernie Ball Musician's Toolkit, which is just great. And I have, unfortunately, pilfered out of here. There's a little ruler that sits in here. They have just about every Allen wrench you could ever need, except for one, which is the little bridge set screw for the intonation on stock Strats. And so that's one thing that if you want to have something like this and you're going to be working on an instrument that's a stock Strat, either augment this with one that sits, and I don't know what the measurement is for the stock Strat, but this didn't have it, and so my little pink Strat that's over there, I wasn't able to use these guys to intonate that, so that was a little bit of a bummer. But the toolkit is really helpful. Inside the toolkit, and I probably have another one that I can get to that hopefully has this little guy right here. Let's see if I can do this without breaking anything and having this thing come toppling down. There we go. I have another one, and there we go. This is what we were looking for. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, this is really important. So the great thing, and I was thinking about this because the guy that works on my guitars, first of all, cheers, is a guy by the name of Gary Brower. And he works on Neil Sean's guitars and Joe Satriani's guitars and Kirk Hammett's guitars and James Hetfield's guitars. And he's the guy. So one of the things is that not everybody has the guy. So what's great about this little measuring tool that comes in here, and some of you probably know way more about working with guitars, but before I had Gary Brower, I basically spent the majority of my life tinkering with my own guitars, getting them to where they needed to be. And a really important thing to do is to be able to take a measurement from the fingerboard up to the string. And I'd probably suggest using the top of the string because it's a little bit more easy to see, a little easier to see, and actually making some measurements of where it is that you like that action to be. And the great thing is there's this little guy. You probably won't be able to see it. There you go. Well, there's a bunch of etchings that allow you to get pretty accurate in terms of how many. I would say these guys. Well, the great thing is they've taken the inches and broken them down to 1/16 of an inch, but the centimeters are broken down into 10 millimeters. So I would probably suggest using. Well, wait a second. Gosh darn it! Hold on a second. No, I take that back. So not only are there are 1/4, 8, 16ths. I guess they're 32nds of an inch, and then over here. Hold on, let me see if I can get my math right. All right, there we go. Oh, I see. So those are. Hold on. Really, I can do this. Okay, so those guys look like those are 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are 16th of an inch. So at the very bottom here, they've got it set to 32nds of an inch. And it looks like the 32nd of an inch, yep, is a little bit closer together than the millimeters. So that is to say, if you're measuring in the 32nd of an inch or multiples thereof, you can do that. And you can get a really good measurement of where you want each of the strings as you go across the fingerboard. And I would suggest probably setting up like a Google Sheet and doing that for each of your guitars so it's in one place that lives online in case you're someplace you need to get to it. It's online and you can, get to it. You can also print that out. But just kind of put each one of the guitars in, it may be a little bit different from instrument to instrument, especially if you play Strats and Les Pauls or something like that, or, Kramers and Flying V's or whatever, where, this is a Fender scale, that's a Gibson scale. So you may find that on your Gibson scale, instruments that are a little bit shorter scale, you may find that you like the action a little bit closer to the neck simply because the scale of the instrument is shrunk down a little bit. Or you may not. I actually don't know how big a difference there is between what I find to be the sweet spot. But the thing about working with a tech like Gary is you kind of begin to find the spot where you like the instruments to be set up. and and so as an end result, having a measurement of what that is, knowing actually what that metric is a huge help in seeing, where you like each of the instruments set up and documenting that. Such that if you take it to somebody new, or maybe your regular tech isn't around, and you need to have some work done. Maybe there's somebody that like Gary is the best guy in my opinion in the San Francisco Bay Area for frets. But let's say you had another guy you had doing work, but maybe their area of expertise wasn't frets, and you need to take it to Gary. Well, after he's done setting up the frets, you want to give him some idea of kind of where you like things set, or at least kind of some ballpark, such that when the instrument is set up, he can go, okay, well, I've set this to that. How does it feel? And most often you'll kind of come back in, give the guitar a play, and say, oh, a little higher, a little bit lower. And that little bit higher, a little bit lower process of what we've done with the Flying V there is how we kind of came up with the sweet spot. And the great thing about a tech like that is it's kind of like a group of musicians that play together. You just kind of know where things go, such that he doesn't pull out a measuring thing and take meticulous notes. He just knows the feel of how I like my instruments, and he knows that with Joe and Neil and all these guys. So it's a very unique process. But if you don't have somebody like that, this tool here is, or something like it, is really valuable. So again, you can document where you like the action, and you can also then begin to experiment and kind of go, because most of us, we kind of go, oh, that's the perfect spot, can't touch it, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden you're like, well, what if I did touch it? If being able to document is a big part of this. All right. Oh, scared the pants out of me. Mike, can't hear you, Doug. I'm like, oh no, because every so often I'll do and step on my little foot switch, and of course I'm muted, so I was like, holy God. Yeah, I saw that, Eric. That was pretty funny. All right. Oh, the Badlander is just flipping obscene. And there we go. I need to find my local guy. Tough for me to trust anybody to bring my guitars at local guitar center. How do I say this? Guitar Center is the Home Depot of guitars. And we'll leave it there. There we go. Awesome. Thanks for that, Chris. So great question. So, yes. So the deal is that for me, being look, this isn't my area of expertise, but for me, the logical thing is like, hey, if I can stick this guy flat on the fingerboard and then see where the top of the string is from as much of a 90-degree angle to the neck, and look at where the top sits against here, that's what I'm going to do. I'll get the least amount of shadow. As I've gotten a little bit older, my eyes are not quite as resilient as they once were in terms of being able to adjust from dark light to bright light. So, if I'm in some place where, I don't have great light, being able to see with as little bit of a shadow as possible, yes, so from the bottom to the top. I'm not saying that that's what your seasoned professional would do, but yes, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so same measurements across the board for me. So here's the thing is you may find that what you... so a great example of this is, for example, and this is one of the other nuances. First of all, good morning, Albert. Great to see you. Hello, hello, hello. Hope you're having a great weekend. Pleasure. Thanks for dropping in. Yes, the Badlander is the real deal. It's insane. Most of the guitar centers I have been are like vacuum cleaners. They all suck. So here's the thing: is that they're just trying to in crime shows they have these guys that are called cleaners, right? They just kind of come in and clean the mess. It's just a mess, and so we'll leave it there. We'll have a Guitar Center conversation on a different day. So. The thing about this is that I do find that more often than not, I like the high E string a little bit higher for a couple of reasons. I find that when I don't have it up, so then we get to another question, and it's an extension of this. How high should you set your action, and why? When I was in 9th grade or so, my buddy Louis Olvera and I, we both played Les Pauls, and I think there's a point where at about somewhere between 7th and 9th grade, if you're playing that early, you're like, how low can I set my action, right? It's just You just kind of don't know. And most of my instruments actually have relatively medium high action, because when I'm doing that sort of stuff, and or if I want to, and my amp is kind of right smack in front of the drawer where I keep my main slide. If I want if you want to do a fair amount of slide work, low action is the recipe to have it be really not great. Because what starts happening is you start fretting instead of making contact with the string. You start fretting the note with the slide, which is not what you want to do. And you start getting this kind of the noise of the slide. Of the slide interacting with the fret. And you don't want to have that sound, generally speaking. So you have to have the action high enough. But, you know, if you're not going to play with the slide, how high do you want it and why? The thing is that I like to kind of use the tips of my fingers playing legato, because it can be kind of going like this. So if the string's too close to the fret, I'm not able to kind of get the articulation that I like to get. From that. And in particular, I have a tendency to keep the high E string. Well, let's see if on this guitar it's actually... No, I won't be able to see it without putting a... And it looks really silly, a second pair of glasses on top of these. But generally speaking, Gary kind of knows I like to have the high E string just a little tiny bit higher than, for example, the third string. And part of that is that it just allows you a little bit more articulation to manipulate the string without pulling it off the edge of the fingerboard. And ironically, it seems a little counterintuitive that if the string is lower, that it should be easier to play it and not pull the string off the fingerboard. But when I have a little bit more height to the string, to work with, it makes it a little bit easier to just navigate the string. So here's the other thing. Hold on, what do we got? What do we got here, Bobby? Hold on, can I select this? No, I can't select that. Oh, hold on, visit link. Where are you going to take me? All right, Mike Lowell's Guitar Works, 425, best luthier show. Oh, look at that! That's awesome. Look at you. So he's in the Seattle area. Way to go. Gosh darn it, Bobby. And by the way, thank you for the birthday wishes. You got great hair. Anybody said that lately? So the pickup height is another thing. One of the things, and I'm not the most technical dude in the world, but one of the things that can happen if you set the pickups too close to the strings is that it can interfere with the intonation. That is to say, this is an electromagnetic field. And this is, all right, here we go. So there are a couple of things at play. If you were to put a set of classical nylon strings on this guitar, the treble strings, in theory, are not going to enable you to hear any sound that you make on the top three strings coming through a traditional electric guitar. So with that in mind, if you had a string that has a lot of what I refer to as magnetic potential, that is to say, this electromagnetic field here, the string's ability to interrupt that field, it allows to take the vibrations and transduce that into a sound that kind of comes out your cable and into your amplifier, and you got guitar sounds. So the less magnetic potential of the string, the less that the transducer can pick up that sound. So the idea is that in addition to the height of the string, what is the magnetic potential of the strings that you're using? How loud are you playing, right? For example, that's totally not only going to create more volume, but it's also going to drive, sorry, it's over there, drive the front end of whatever it is that you're playing through. A louder string is probably going to produce more volume coming off of the string into the pickup, and in turn interrupting that electromagnetic field that's happening there. So, experiment with some of that, and just be conscious that your string, and there was a trick. That's right. You would take something that was magnetic and put it by the string, and there you go. I can feel it. And in theory, you shouldn't feel any magnetic pull where you're at the string level, but as you get closer to the pickup, it's actually, in this case, pulling. Hang on. So I'm just going to balance this like this. See, well, this is probably a really crappy example, but right now, I'm kind of where, if it were on the body, it would kind of be flopping around here. It's actually kind of stuck to that little pole piece there. Really crappy example of this, but the point being is it's kind of there, it's magnetically connected. So the idea is you want your string away from that magnetic field, but enough such that it's not grabbing in that way that you can feel that. Now that's, it's obviously got to be close enough so it's interrupting that field. So that's where I'm out of my area of expertise, other than to say, if it's too close to the pickup, it will basically literally pull the string out of tune. That's bad. So I love low action to bring out the elbow. There we go. So, and again, this is a very, first of all, this is a personal thing, and and if you play really soft, a lower string action is probably a better fit for you. If you play hard, a higher string action. There are times that I play hard with the string, with the pick, because the string needs a little spanking from time to time. But there are times. And one of the things that I've learned to do, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later. Here I'm seating it soft. Here I'm spanking it. You probably aren't hearing an awful lot of difference, but there's a huge amount of difference with what's happening in the right hand. And if endurance is a thing, which it is for most people, the less energy you use with your left and right hand, the more endurance you're going to have. And or a good way to build your endurance is start off by hitting things a little lighter. So we're going to come back to that. All right. Awesome. Okay. So the interesting thing about all of this, to Rick's point, which is a really, really good one, is that your average locking fine-tuning tremolo doesn't have individual saddle height adjustments. It's got usually a 3 drill point adjustment for where you can set it for fine-tuning the intonation. And then you just kind of slide it back and forth and clamp it down. But it does not have a height adjustment. So literally these 2 set screws, thank you very much, Rick, are the place that you adjust the height of the treble side and the bass side of the bridge. And to his point, we actually, I have a tendency to mess with both of these until it feels good. And getting the high E string so it's a little bit, I have a little bit more room to work with so I can get underneath the string, comes from having that side a little bit higher. The other thing is, kind of the, if you were to measure it millimeter to millimeter by where this guy is in terms of you could get an exact adjustment from the top of the throw or I should say the bottom of the throat to where it sits, the thickness of the string is obviously going to compound that measurement, if you will, less and more depending on which side you're at. All that to say, as you begin to mess around with this, the other thing I would encourage you to do as you're adjusting this is have a little piece of paper with you and just write down half a turn or a quarter of a turn. That way you can kind of get back to where you were. And yes, another thing that would probably be pretty crafty would be to be able to get down to your like this and measure where the high E string and the low E string were when you started, and then you can mess around with it and not get freaked out. All right, great point. All right, Bobby Valdez. On string height, I had a chance to play Philip Sace's guitar a few years ago. He uses 10 through 40/60 Adarios, and his action is high. Remember that the maximum bender tunes. Remember that he is a maximum bender and tunes to E flat, which affects whether or not you have high action. Generally, benders need higher action to get underneath the strings. Metal guys and gals, not so much. First of all, Steve, thank you for the lovely birthday wishes. Much appreciated, and the kind words. You are awesome and loved. Thank you, my friend. Bobby, yes, so the thing is, I'm a... Separate from the legato side of things, one of my early guitar teachers, and I don't do it so much, but they taught me to kind of put you are not going to be able to see it, but have the string come over the top of the nail there. I don't know what happens when I do this. You see the boxes over there, and it's actually you can kind of see it maybe a little bit better. So you've got this happening over here, and instead I kind of use my fingernail just above the string, and when I'm bending. But being able to kind of get on the side of the string, if you will, get kind of underneath it as you're pushing it. Otherwise, the string is going to want to release. And I also find that a big part of playing is, even if I'm hitting softly, manhandling the strings, dynamic range. That's really what the operative phrase I want to use. And generally, having a higher string means that if I want to hit the string soft, I'll work a little bit harder. But if I want to be able to... the ability to kind of get underneath. Underneath the string like that means I can kind of... and it also means that as you get into hammer-ons, and not a traditional legato way, but a more of a... and then mix and match those, I find that if the action's too low, it becomes problematic. Car camper, I love that. All right, so aren't there some saddles that are radiused? So there's a little bit of everything out there on the market, and I am a slightly kind of like a tried and true guy. If I like what I like, I kind of go with it. And so I am actually very thankfully and kind of really excited. I'm a Floyd Rose endorser, which kind of after decades of using the guy who invented the device that the locking tremolo. So Floyd Rose, the next Flying V. I'm pointing at this guitar, but the next Flying V, Floyd and his team sent me a tremolo. So that is going to be the essence of that guitar, because the ability to pull up that floating tremolo is an essential. That circular vibrato is awesome. Brian Bartley, what's going on, my man? I can't tell people why, but I'm going to be seeing a lot more Brian Bartley in the near future. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. Not today, though. That's funny. So an interesting. So I have not yet, and so the interesting thing is, first of all, it's one of the ideas that's kind of down on a list, because if you haven't done it, the first time you watch people doing it, you're like, all right. I think the first bit is just put the pick down, and yeah, this is not me being kind of smart ass as I throw the pick away. Literally just kind of getting comfortable with. I don't know what happens when. I didn't finish my sentence, but what happens when you just play with the fingers, right? The important thing is to get this thumb first finger. The other thing is then this little triplety guy, thumb, and I kind of, I guess I go thumb 1, 2. Now, this is one of the other things about this is that not just is the technique that you're going for. I was like, all right, I'm going to use my fingers, but there's a particular sound. So one of the things that I call guitar harmonica. When a harmonica player plays, and I remember kind of over the past, I collect sounds. I know that sounds kind of funny, but I'll send myself links, most of which I never actually go back to. But if ever I did, sounds that I'll hear a song, somebody does something. Charlie Musselwhite is a great harmonica player. And there's this. This ha 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 sort of thing. Roll off the tone, you can get to the loser. Wow, wow, wow. So that is to say, the type of just in the same way that if you're playing with a pick, if you have the idea of a palm mute versus a stab, palm mute, and combined with a stab, you got these different layers of texture. And, you know, I kind of whine about this from time to time. Most guitar players have a tendency to hit the string with the same volume over and over, and they wonder why their playing's not super dynamic. I'm always trying to kind of go a couple of things. One is acoustically, what's the guitar telling me? What's it telling me? When it's plugged into one device or a different device. And that information obviously is going to be different on the device that you're plugged into, which means if, you know, as an example, switching channels. Now notice when I'm over here, I'm actually, technique-wise, hitting it softly. And then over here, when I go over here, I'm hitting the string much harder. I'm going to need to turn this channel up probably a little bit. That's not to say... Excuse me. Let's do here. So kind of going, okay, what's happening tonally? I think a lot of players just don't... I think, first of all, and there's nothing wrong with like, hey, this is the vibe I'm going for. All right, that tone doesn't get me there. For me, what I'm always looking for, is why I collect tones, I'm kind of like, where's that going to take me that I haven't gone yet? So a big part of my journey is in this moment is figuring out some of the things that I can do that are uniquely my own. But in the process of that, I'm always kicking the tires, looking for something that's going to break free that I hadn't. Right, so that guy. That's one that broke free, and I'm like, oh, you know, I was just playing, and I went. There it is. And it's just something that I did kind of, because I was messing around with something, like, oh. There it goes. The slide. And there's a... That's kind of one of my go-tos. But that is just kind of one of those things. I'm always like, oh, where's that thing? Then I'm kind of like, all right, let me make a note of that. And I'll put that on my voice memos. But usually when I'll play something like that, when it's a thing that I'm going to be like, I'm going to come back to that. I just kind of remember it. And that little, and I'm kind of working out the transition. Of how I'm going to bring it in both octaves, but that's kind of one of the things that just is one of the shticks, right? So there it is, kind of brought across 2 octaves. So if I'm not playing different things, oh, hang on a second here. Matt Picone, what's going on, my man? Playing should be play as well as work. Thank you very much. And so if you will, anytime you plug into, oh, look at that, very conveniently, an FM9 in the background. I'm not technically plugged into it at the moment, but the idea is that sense of discovery. I think I'm always trying to find that thing that's going to happen. And so when I go into the different modes of, that's going to lead me someplace that I wouldn't have gone otherwise. I'm just kind of going, what's the amp telling me? Do I need to change pickup selection? And then that ability to kind of, all right, what happens with my technique? And this gets back to kind of, we were talking about string action. That height means I can kind of manhandle that string if I need to. The other thing, get a little bit more sensitive, and although when you're playing with a fair amount of gain, it's not as extreme, backing off on the volume control. But just having those ranges of it. So just mess with stuff, like Matt said, play around. Gosh darn it! All right, hang on. I missed somebody's question here. Do you have a starting bass for warming up on 3-note per string speed exercise? And when would you increase the tempo with startup BPM? Speaking my love language, we're going to jump into this a little bit. So I apologize to anybody that we're going to jump off the tone trail for just a moment. But this is well worth this. And this is one of the things I wanted to cover today. So thank you for that, my dear friend. All right, first of all, yes, I live. If I fire up my app, it's on my home page or home screen rather, of my apps. It will be set to 80 BPM. I live at 80 BPM. What's great about this particular app? Hang on a second. What exactly are you called here? Metronome. The heck are you? It's Metronome. Blah blah blah. Hang on a second. Metronome Beats. There we go. Found on the iTunes / Apple Store. Apple Store. But what's neat is there is this kind of advanced by 5 BPM little Delio touchscreen guy there. That is kind of the common denominator of how I work. So let me answer this for all people out there. Anything that you're practicing, there's a couple of different modes of practice. And somebody a couple of weeks ago gave me a kick in the pants because I was talking... too kind. We was talking about this 15-minute fundamentals thing, and I have a really bad habit of overcomplicating anything that I can make simple. I've got to overthink it, not so overthink it, but kind of over-engineer it such that it's the best it can be. Sometimes at the expense of it being the best for the widest range of people that don't need it to be over-engineered. So the 15-minute fundamentals, I'm actively working on Master the Pentatonic micro course. In the background, the one that's going to follow that up or something very close after that is going to be Master the Modes micro course. And the idea is it's an hour of content that's going to tell you just about everything you need to know to just get up and running and master them up and down the fingerboard, understanding, you know, what the pentatonic is, different sequences that are going to give you the ability to create articulation, so on and so forth. So the 15-minute fundamentals is about, in 15 minutes, how can you sit down and prevent your guitar muscles from atrophying? And I know everybody out there knows what I'm talking about because it's a common pain point. And the concept is, and this is where I got it overly complicated, and I just kind of went, it just became too big. I was like, well, really, for it to be as effective as it should be, shouldn't there be 5 different workouts that people do 5 different days of the week? And I kind of went down this rabbit trail, and I just I didn't have all the right answers. I want to have the answers for people, because if people are going to trust me and invest in whatever it is that I'm doing, that they're going to spend their money and time doing, I want it to be right. I want it to be the right thing. I want it to be the best it can be for me, that I can deliver for you. So I kind of went back, you know what, 15-minute fundamentals is really a matter of like, hey, I got 15 minutes. Just give me your opinion of like what in that 15 minutes is going to help me not feeling like I'm atrophying. And the recipe of that is 80 BPM. And it ultimately reflects the fact that when I sit down in practice mode, I'm actually doing exactly the thing that I was concerned. Well, I think people are going to lose interest, if I give them the same 15-minute meal every day. Instead, it's just actually, they're just going to make sure that they're not atrophying on their fundamentals. And most guitar players, if I said, hey, play me the third pattern of the minor pentatonic, chances are, from bottom to top and connecting it to pattern number 4, they aren't going to be able to do that. And in the process of kind of going, okay, we're going to work on the same group of exercises and things just to keep the second finger root modes underneath. The interesting thing is, a bunch I play at church. And an interesting thing happened that the guy that is the worship pastor at this one church, I have a home church that I go to, but there's this other church locally that is paying me and really, really well to play every Sunday. I'll be playing tomorrow. Separate from my kind of dichotomy of feelings, like, well, isn't this someplace where you should kind of give your gifts? They're like, hey, can you come play, and we want to pay you. And so because I'm not at my home church, I'm like, I'm okay with getting paid, to play at church. But the point being is that the worship pastor has a tremendous amount of confidence in me, and more than one time's like, well, Doug's going to show up prepared because he knows I'm a rehearsal fanatic. But the other thing is there was this melody of this song, and it started with this really short count. And, during rehearsal, he said, well, Doug can do it. He just kind of volunteered me for it, but he knew it was going to happen and start on. So like, intro, 2, boom. So basically, as I kind of went, all right, let me learn the part. I immediately went to the second finger root modes to do that. Now, why did I do that? When I say second finger root modes, I mean the ones that start with the second finger. Them. Because if you look at that G major scale, which I'm actually playing up at C, it's pretty easy to really go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And if we were to play just a simple G major triad, or C major triad rather, it sits right in the middle there. That C major bar chord does. That's C major 7. That's C major 6. So unlike the 3-note per string modes, where in the second octave, that is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5 in the second octave doesn't line up with any of the chord shapes. So I find instinctively I just went. And I was like, all right, it's 1. And like I had, so it's 1, 2, literally. So you're in your cans, and it says, you hear intro 2. And like, you don't have intro 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. It was a little intro 2. And so like, and you're playing on your own, and the church is kind of looking at you like, oh, okay. So you can either really get it right or really get it wrong. So first of that, and one of the things I thought about talking about today was rhythm, which we're not going to do today, but the ability to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and, right? So and a 1 and 2 and actually, so these are 16, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a, that is a 1E and a 2E and a, so first of all, it's coming on the 1 and 2 and, but I'm playing 16 notes, 1E and a 2E and a, So kind of knowing rhythmically where you need to be, but also kind of going 1, 2, 3, 1, 6, 1, 7, 7, 1, 7, 1, 2, 7, 1, 2, 7, 5, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 4, 4, 3, 1. Sorry, 4, 3, 2. I can't say it as well as I can think it. 4, 3, 2, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3. So the point being is I needed to very quickly kind of make sense of what's going on. 1, 2, 3, 2, 7. Sorry, down 1, 2, 3, 1. Right. All right. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 1, 6, 1, 7, 7, 1, 2, 7, 5, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 4, 4, 3, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1. No, sorry, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3. But the idea of being able to have some way that I could kind of churn through that stuff and kind of put it to one of the most. Oh, look at all the comments here. Hang on a second. Put it to muscle memory, because the thing is that one of the big things that's on my mind and my heart for sharing with other guitar players isn't like, oh, you know, I any of the other, all right, tap, whatever, arpeggio, that stuff, that's great. But what really counts is building muscle memory, because it means that I was able to kind of go. But I needed to go 1 and 2. So I needed to keep in mind that the most important thing for me to remember is I'm on the and 2, 1 and 2 and I'm starting off 1, 2, 3. So I needed to very quickly kind of get my brain and fingers in there. I suck at music notation, which is just kind of one of the things that I chose not to study. But my understanding of things is relatively high. So the idea of giving myself to something to grab onto such that I'm not going to screw it up and when we get to it is kind of important. So all that to say, long answer, but the idea of that fundamental kind of if you run into an old friend and you sit down for coffee, the longer it's been since you've seen them, the more you're playing catch up. The more recent it is, the easier it is to just jump into engagement. That muscle memory piece with these fundamental fingerings is the same way. And there are times that we get away from the instrument. So the goal of the 15-minute fundamentals is really give people just the kind of the nuts and bolts, the meat and potatoes, the things you just want to know, and have your fingers kind of going, cool, this is great. And it just means that the muscle memory, the great thing is even if it's the same thing you're doing 5 days a week for 15 minutes, you're actually building your accuracy and your muscle memory. And for me, a huge part of when I go to sit down with the instrument is muscle memory. Again, you know. Right? You know, and then being able to kind of figure out how I'm going to get that into muscle memory, what I need to be thinking, what I don't need to be thinking. Now, as it relates to this question here, 3-note per string speed exercise A. Is one of my favorite exercises for me and for pretty much anybody out there that will partake. Why? Because the great thing is, unlike more traditional things where you're kind of needing to cross strings, which is much harder. If you're working to build speed, it's much easier to just get the left hand and the right hand. Going on a single string before you start adding other strings to that, mix of that. So the idea of just going, hey, let me just get my right hand and my left hand comfortable with playing different subdivisions. So to answer this question in a couple of different ways, including what I wanted to make sure we went over today, those of you who don't have your guitars, grab them, and those of you that you do, grab a hold. The idea is we're just going to take the notes of the G major scale, as in G, hold the A, hold the B, have the C, hold the D, hold the E, hold the F sharp, have the G, E, hold the A, and hold the B. So we're basically taking each group, and if it's 2 whole steps, what I call a double, that's going to be stretch 1, 2, 4. If it's what I call a step and a half, 1, 3, 4. If it's a half and a step, 1, 2, 4, that's a double. That right there is what I call the double-double. That is, say I've got C, D, and E, D, E, and F sharp. So where we just kind of, if we think about the G, A, and B, on the bottom side of that we had F sharp. So it was a half step from G to F sharp. And on the upper side of there we had G, A, B, and A, B, C. So on either side of this double is a half step. So that's what I call just a single double. But this guy right here is a double-double. And why that matters is that only occurs at one spot in the major scale. Not that the single double doesn't, but I used the double-double to kind of tell me harmonically and finger-wise where I am on the pattern. And that's really valuable, because if you can hear, you can hear that you're kind of working your way towards the root. In this case, we're in the key of G major. All right. So first of all, the normal exercise is going each group of 3 notes 2 times. When we get up to the top of the neck, we're doing F sharp G A and G A B, and then we take it 2 more times, and we come back down the neck. Now here's the thing: I've been playing this exercise for a while, so I'm comfortable playing it at a faster rate. But for, kind of per Paul's question, we're looking for muscle memory. And we're looking for steadiness. So the idea that's 80 BPM, I'm playing 8th note triplets instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are quarter notes. Or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And those are 8 notes. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. And the great thing about it just allows you to get comfortable and relax. And in terms of pure speed building, I'm going to take that little rap for a moment. You just bump it up 5 BPM. So that is, say we got this guy. I'm going to take a microcosm, what I call variation number 1. You heard me jump ahead, I relax back. Up 5. Up 5. Up 5. Up 5. I got a little overexcited, I kind of rushed it, so we'll just play it again. Up 5. Five more. Now at a certain point, you'll get to a ceiling. And then you go, okay, wait, that's a little fast, so you back off, 4 BPM. You go up 1. Another 1. Another 1. Another 1. Another 1. Come on. There you go. The point being is you'll kind of, as you go through your initial cycling through your ceiling, you'll find that you get to a spot, you back it off, and by going up 5 BPM increments, it's a great metric to kind of make it so you're not there forever. You're going to find you're going to hit a ceiling. You back it off 4 BPM, which is where the singles really matter. So this little app here has the ability to go up and down in 5 BPM increments and 1 BPM increments. So I kind of got to kind of what was a comfortable 5, where it's kind of at the edge, and I brought it down by 4 BPM. So you could either bring it down by 5 and up by 1, or just go 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of bring it down by 4. And then you just bring it up in 1 BPM increments. And usually the first time you kind of approach your ceiling, you'll be able to bring it past that first ceiling by going back 4 and then up in onesies. And you usually will not only be able to go to that ceiling, you'll be able to bypass it more often than not by about 5 BPM, give or take. And that process is integral to building speed, also documenting that. So, the other thing is there are going to be days that you're going to pick up the guitar. Honestly, when I first started the show this morning, it had been a minute since I really sat with a guitar. And I took a guitar with me to Carmel, but I didn't have a lot of time to play with it. Sometimes it just takes a minute to get back on the bicycle. It happens. But the point being is that the great thing about that type of practice is that you have the ability to just kind of go, okay, you find your equilibrium and you learn how to stay there. That is about building speed, but in terms of 15-minute fundamentals, 80 BPM is this nice, slow. And once I really realized, for me, and I believe 99.9% of all the guitar players out there, how important muscle memory is, including not looking at the neck. Because every time you look at the neck, you're relying less on the hand's ability. Let's see how I do. So last week I did a little thing where I went to the G, C, and the D without looking, and I haven't practiced it since then. But my hands have gotten pretty good at recognizing where those are without playing. So imagine if every song you needed to play, you don't have to look at the neck. You're developing this tactile sense of the fingerboard, which in many ways, to me, is a beautiful byproduct of being so comfortable, you don't have to look. And that level of comfort with the neck comes from repetitive practice. It also comes from setting your sights on things that you're going to do enough times. You're like, all right, this is going to allow me to solve that problem. For example, again, I talked about pattern, and I look at the neck. So let me not look at the neck. Being able to take pattern number 3, the minor pentatonic, that most people kind of fumble around with, unless they're one of my students. And the point being is being able to get comfortable with the things that we normally find as stumbling blocks. And one of the things that happens with guitar players, they have a tendency, instead of running at the things that are difficult, they practice the things that aren't. I get it. But the thing is, if we don't kind of have an active approach for working on the things that we're not as comfortable with, it gets a little bit, we just kind of practice the same stuff over and over. And while what I'm talking about with the 15-minute fundamentals is important for the muscle memory and the not atrophying, that's different than in your quote-unquote active practice time of just playing the same stuff over and over. Not that there's any problem with having a regular menu, but making sure that you're doing new things, that you're either working on adding new pieces to it, or you're then going back and finding the things that are hard for you to do and attacking those head on. So, all right. Okay, hang on. So there we go. All right. First of all, Tony, great to see you. Thank you for the lovely birthday wishes. It would be great if you did a little ditty on timing and subdivisions, maybe going through pattern slow and jigging up fast and then going back. My subdivision timing adjustments are terrible. I'm just thinking out loud, always come up with the best solutions for everything. Very kind. All right, so here's the deal. This is specifically one of the things that I wanted to go over today. So the idea is getting back to 3-note per string speed exercise A. The idea of just getting that left hand and the right hand going in sync. Eighth notes. Sorry, these are quarter notes. Hold on. Sorry, my bad. Let me rephrase. Those are eighth note triplets. These are 16th notes, 16th note triplets, and 32nd notes. So that is a 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. Sorry, I left one short. There we go. So the idea is what we're doing is we're basically taking each note, playing it one time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. And you can just go. So that's what we're... There we go. Gotta have the clean dismount there. So now what we're just doing is taking that. We're playing these 3 notes 2 times with an 8th note triplet going 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. So what you can do is count it off 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, and just mute the strings. That's 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. Then we're going to go to 16 notes. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and then... So the reality is because this guy here starts at 8th note triplets, I actually don't know what the count is for 16th note triplets. That is where if this is... What you would say as you're going blah, 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 or but the idea is we're just going literally taking one instead of hitting each note 1 time. Sorry, that wasn't very good. And then 3 times, 4 times. And that exercise right there will work wonders. And the neat thing about that is those guys right there, those are 8th note triplets, and inside this, this little bit is that fundamental thing that you're going to want to have as you go from slower so the advantage here, though, you're just hitting each note instead of hitting you're hitting each note 3 times instead of hitting each one of those notes 1 time. Getting back to Paul's comment, the idea is this exercise actually has 4 variations. Variation number 1 goes up and down the neck, and I mentioned before, we basically double the octave spot, that G-A-B. So as we turn around the neck, we get a whole cycle up. And a whole cycle down. Variation number 2 goes high to low. Instead of going G-A-B, we're going to go B-A-G, all the way up and all the way down. Again, we repeat the top spot, such that we're kind of cruising up. and we come back down, we get the whole cycle all the way up. Sorry. And down. That will go into variation number 3, where we go up low to high, as in GAB. And high to low, as in BAG. That turnaround is going to be... Variation number 4 just flips that around. And so all 4 variations allow you to kind of get all the kind of mixing and matching. For most people, going up high to low, as in BAG, and shifting on the pinky, is hardest than going down low to high. Since you're shifting on the first finger is probably the hardest, or both of them going high to low. Was a little out on that note. But that exercise, slow is fine. Because what we're working on is just muscle memory and control. And the neat thing about this, though, let's say I go, instead of going, that is, say instead of going G-A-B-B-A-G, I'm going G-G-A-B-A-G. So that is to say I'm doubling the first note. It's one of my favorite little shreddy licks. And I can move that around in different locations on the neck. Now this is where this whole double-double that I mentioned before. The idea is if we're going G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, and we kind of have that G, A, B, you can see on the lower side of G, A, B, you got F sharp, G, A, and on the upside of G, A, B, you got A, B, and C. That's what I call a double. This, so it goes C, D, E, and D, E, F sharp, is what I call a double-double, where that it happens unlike this spot where this 2 whole step sequence, a double, is surrounded by a half step sequence on either side, harmonically speaking. So this double-double, if you can hear, so that right there, kind of without having to look, I was like, there it is. It's gonna be my single double. Here's a double-double. Oh, sorry. Now I can tell that's the root right there. There's my half step below, so there's my half and a step, double, step and a half and a step. Here's the first double of the double-double. So if you can begin to recognize where those are happening by sound. Double-double, single-double, double, single. The upper of the upper double of the double, single double. But the great thing, that all came from and if you're looking for just one to practice, that would be it. Low to high, as in GAB, 2 times at each spot. BAG, as in high to low, on the way down. And the transition, we're going to go twice. Flip the direction, go twice, and come down. So that's the transition is going to be like this. And that's just a great way. By the way, if you want to do all 4 variations, just work on the transitions. I'm basically at E, F sharp, G, F sharp, G, A, G, A, B. I'm going to go low to high, up and down. High to low, up and down. Low to high on the way up, high to low on the way down. High to low on the way up, low to high on the way down. Sorry. All four back to back, not looking. And that muscle memory, and it doesn't matter if it's slow. And accuracy. That note was a little funky. There's number 3. At tempo. Something like that. All right. The idea is building that muscle memory is a really healthy way to just kind of get your fingers kind of going, I got this. And what it does is it's for your brain and kind of this emotional reaction to our playing, because we are all having some emotional reaction to our playing. You know, ideally it's getting better, but if we don't have a lot of practice time, it has a tendency to decrease. So if we have things we can do. Now, Anthony, like you said, like, all right, how do we address subdivision? That's a great exercise. Yes, we're hitting each note once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. On one hand, it seems a little basic, but on the other hand, you really are just practicing getting a good sound and hitting those different subdivisions. Again, 8th note triplets. 16th notes. Oh, sorry. 8th note triplets. 16th notes. 16th note triplets. 30-second notes. Let's count it in. Let's try it together. 2, 3, 4. 2 times. 3 times. 4 times. You get the idea. All right. We digress, but in a really good way. Thank you. I appreciate that, my friend. Hold on. Let me get that so it's floating above there. There we go. More like it. Come on. There we go. First of all, thanks for everybody that's watching, hanging out. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I hope your dad had an amazing birthday as well. I think we're not going to do a replay of the birthday video, but I really appreciated your contribution greatly, my friend. Greatly. Thank you so much. Pleasure to watch you in the shred den. Much appreciated. It hits all by itself. Muscle memory will make your hand feel like it's playing all by itself. It's very, very important. What's going on, Eric? How you doing, man? Always happy to have you here, regardless of when and where. So your warm-up starts at 80 BPM and slowly increases 5 BPM. Sorry, I didn't accurately answer that. So my warm-up is kind of my daily thing. For the most part, I do one of a couple of things. I just run through a series of exercises at 80 BPM, either played as 8th notes, as in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, or as 8th note triplets. The other thing is because I went to grab my phone, I did something that I don't normally do. I shifted the guitar to my right leg. I have a little practice footstool that I have in the bedroom. I purposely sit in a spot where I'm not going to be distracted by this thing, the computer that is. And I just get a chance to sit with the instrument, and it's usually at the very beginning of my day. And it just allows me to kind of get centered with the guitar. I sneak in some time because, as everybody here knows, it's easy to get distracted from the instrument. So I literally will just sit it at 80 BPM and do a couple of things with this minor pentatonic, either eighth notes or, that is to say, come on. The other thing that's cool is there's a little kind of flywheel here that you can use to get it down real speedy, like down to 80. Come on, there we go. Come on, and there we go. So the idea is this guy, this Anthony, just goes out to you. Eighth notes are 1, 2, 3, 4. So eighth notes are 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I can play the minor pentatonic. Traditionally, as I've assigned this to people over the years, I give it to them with an eighth note feel, but that's an eighth note triplet feel, and more often than not, sorry, I stopped listening to the metronome for a second. And notice, interesting thing that's happened, sorry, I'm adjusting my level so that you can hear I'm probably a little tiny bit hot here with the guitar. That should be good. I'm not looking with my eyes at what I'm playing on the fingerboard, because one of the things I'm consciously working on, and a byproduct of that is that in addition to consciously working on it, I subconsciously no longer have to look at the neck. Now, hopefully I'm not going to walk myself into some silly mistake, but I'm increasingly working on being able to feel where the notes are and play really smooth transitions, right? And I'm flapping my gums here looking at the camera. But the point being is I'm getting really comfortable at not looking. And what's happening is I'm building the muscle memory skill, not just for each one of these patterns, but what the transition from pattern to pattern feels like. So I don't have to look at the area on neck that I most normally, I missed a note there. I had a little poppy sound right about there on the second string. So if I wanted to, I could have just repeated that pattern. But more often than not, as I'm kind of just running through these, as I'm starting off in the morning, I won't replay something. I'll just play it once and I kind of go, I make a mental note, did I make one mistake? And that happened probably because I didn't put my fourth finger in. I actually also make a note of where that is. So that would have been on the G on the second string. That is, say, this pattern goes G, B flat, C, D, F, G, B flat, C, D. Hold on. No. B flat, C, D, F, G, B flat, C, D, F, G. Yeah, that was that G right there. B flat, C, C, B flat, G, F, D, C, B flat, G, F, D, C, B flat. So again, I know the notes of the G minor pentatonic are G, B flat, C, D, F, G. I'm starting off the second note. That's B flat, C, D, F, G, B flat, C, D, F, G. I was a little quiet, and I kind of went, and I just didn't go. And it was that G there. So I will make a mental note, that G there on the second string, or the next time I go to play it the next day, I will hopefully remember where it was that I made the mistake from the previous day. Not a bad idea to make a little mental note of it. But the other thing that I'm trying to do with this type of practicing, I'm not trying to have it be cumbersome. I don't want it to turn anything more. And this is kind of why I talked myself back into the original concept of 15-minute fundamentals. I'm like, I'm actually doing this. Now, one of the things that I will do, like you saw there, is I may step up the subdivision at 80 BPM. So let's just say I'm doing eighth notes. And so one of the exercises is that subdivision that is the G minor pentatonic transition exercise A. And I'm playing it as eighth notes. So the convenient thing about not having to reach down and mess with that, and that, by the way, that G, that slide up on my way up there was a little funky, but just make a mental note, but don't stop, don't need to stop the train. Just make a mental note. And for this type of just kind of getting the fingers up and running practice, I'm not looking for perfection, but I am looking for focus. Now, I went from eighth notes, 16th notes, this note right there, or that one, was the one that I missed before. So I made a little mental note, because I went from my eighth notes to my 16th notes. So what's neat about that, that allows me to kind of take a bass tempo, and then per Tony's comment and per what I do is subdivide around that. And it's just a great way to kind of go, let me just keep the tempo constant, but note that I'm going from 8th notes to 16th notes. It's a very effective practice way to kind of run through it. All right. Let's see here. Awesome, Tony. I hope this really serves you really well. These are things that are really near and dear to my heart. And it just, the funny thing is that I love that photo, by the way. I was really thinking to myself this morning, I really want to do this thing with 3 upper string speed exercise A and the different subdivisions on each one of those notes, because again, it really allows, I guess, especially this guy. The neat thing is all that is like, and, but the neat thing is you combine them together. If you did, gives you an idea of what faster playing will feel like, although we get the benefit of just making sure the right hand has the chance to go between again. And just really kind of go, okay, cool, it's just it. And I think it's such an important part of it. All right, what's going on? 30 seconds, I have no clue, and who can count that? So that's the whole thing, is I don't actually have a count for it, but this guy. 1, 2. So that is a. So hang on, let me pull this guy up. You come here. Man, come on. There we go. Sorry, I lost the horse there. Gotta ride the horse. And by the way, this is faster than I suggest doing this. Sorry, twice. Sorry. So for that guy, I would probably go, all right, let's drop it down to 60. And try not to cut your that last one off, then all right. $70, that was 65 to 70. $75. Sorry, I lost the metronome. $80. That right there is a nut buster. That's hard. But you don't have to worry about making it hard. Slow it down. And the idea is just, either 60 or slower is fine. And again, that's just, here's 60. If you need a minute, you just hang out on the fours there. And if that's too fast, slow it down some more. And by the way, if the whole thing is just too fast for you, just do onesies and twosies. And then speed that puppy up. You get the idea. And again, what'll happen is you'll find that the right hand. One of the great things about this, and while it's kind of implicit, let me just spell it out, just so it's painfully obvious. We're just learning to strike the string faster and faster with the right hand, without the left hand having to do anything, and without having to, or most people can't go straight. Maybe I can't. That's a hard transition. So basically I'm going G, A, B, A, A, B, C, B. So you're kind of making the transition on that middle note. You might go going. That is it. We got to get from to the same note played with different fingers. And we're on the way down. We're going from that note to this one. That is a hard exercise, but really good. All right. Good. All right, Bill, what's happening, my man? Great to see you. Always a pleasure. I love you too, my friend, so thanks so much. No, that's a great thing. You guys are awesome. The four-way slam, up and back. All right, good. Thank you, Eric. Much appreciated. Awesome. And so this is, ironically, you say that. What's really interesting and what's really cool about that is that I really learned a lot about rhythm when I was but a wee lad. Phil, great to see you, my friend. I think I'm going to see you tomorrow. I look forward to it. Much appreciated. So here's the thing is that, awesome. Love that. So the deal is, one of the ways that I really started to understand programming drums for Easy Drummer and working in a computer was with a machine called the SR16B from Alesis. And it basically allowed you to start dropping notes on a grid. But it totally ties over to this because you said the operative word there, which is grid, is that let's just imagine you've got 4 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you basically, there's no grid other than the large 1 square grid, four of them, right? Then if you split each one of those squares into 2, now that 4 square grid became an 8 cell grid. And that's the difference between going 1, 2, 3, 4 to going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And if you will, each one of those cells represents where kind of on the line of where that cell starts, or if you kind of thought about it as a ruler that's just going 1, 2, 3, 4, and it has the full duration of 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and 4 to kind of where the next one would be. You have basically 0 to 1, 1 to 2, so on and so forth. You're going to have 4 full duration beats. So if you just take that, imagine you start at the beginning where it basically says 0 to 1, you're actually going to call that 1. Sorry, I didn't explain that right. My bad. 1. So you've got 4 squares. Gosh darn it, let's see if I can get this right. At the left-hand edge of the first square, it says 1. Left-hand edge of the second square says 2, 3, and 4. Then, if you in turn slice each one of those in half, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, slice them into 3 parts, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. Slice them into 4 parts, 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and. And that grid of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and. So there I'm just playing the rhythm of it. When we did this, I actually was playing eighth note triplets, as in 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, and then we jumped to 16th note triplets. But for the sake of 1, 2, 3, 4, just playing those subdivisions there, because I was doing them, that is, say if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, there I've subdivided each beat 1, 2 by 3 notes. Or, so if I go that's eighth note triplets. But if I go, sorry, I'm now 1E and a 2E, 1E and a 2E, 3, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and. Hold on. Yeah, so that's going to go to 16, just double checking. Then 16 note triplets, and then 30-second notes. All right. Okay, so all that to say, just making sure I'm tracking right. You just draw your, another way. Hey, there you go. Come on. Another way to do this would be as follows. In a minute, I've got to get out of here, and I've got a lesson to teach. But you could do this. And it would be like this. And these represent each one of the beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, and I could have explained this better, but that's okay. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and all right. This is not going to look like an awful lot, especially if it's all curled up. All right, as we look at all of this goodness, you can see the first one is just going basically from left to right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then subdividing my 2, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and those are eighth notes. Eighth note triplets go 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. And 16th notes are going to go 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. I'm just going to do it for the first beat of these, where kind of do it like this, and then like this. You can kind of see for the first beat of these, I kind of subdivided this, this beat in 2. So that's eighth notes. And this beat in 3, that's 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. And this one in 16th notes, and that's going to be 1 E and 2 E and so on and so forth. So normally when you see bars like this, they represent a full measure, but the way I wanted to do this, just so you can kind of see it as a grid, each one of these represents a beat. So the idea is you just, very simply, if I'm just going to kind of multiply pick this one note, 1, 2, 3, 4 is just this guy. Boom. Then we got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and we sliced each one of those beats in half. Those are eighth notes. Slice each one of those beats in 3. Those are eighth note triplets. In 4, those are 16th notes. And what's great about that, just you can call out 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Notice I keep calling out 1, 2, 3, 4 for chord notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and for eighth notes, as well as 1 2 3, 2 2 3, 3 2 3, 4 2 3 for the eighth note triplets, and 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 and a. So we're always calling out 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 2 3, 2 2 3, 3 2 3, 4 2 3, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. And if you want to get all fancy, you can go 1 2 and 3 2 3 4 E and a. So there, what I did was took the 4 beats and went 1, played it as a quarter note. 2, I played it as eighth notes. So that's going to go 1 2 and then 3 I did as eighth note, which is going to be 3 2 3, and 4 was 16th notes, will be 4 E and a. 1 2 and 3 2 3 4 E and a. 1 2 and 3 2 3 4 E and a. And it just gets you used to switching between those subdivisions and knowing what they are, which is huge. It's also good to know where your mouse bounced to. Gosh darn it. Come here, you little so-and-so. There we go. All right. And gosh darn it, Miguel Nunez. Thank you so much for the birthday wishes. I am so grateful. MIDI is driving me crazy, but I got the basics for now. Oh boy, you're going to open up I love that photo, by the way. And Mr. Tonic, first of all, great. Thank you. I love this guitar. Had a white Focus 1000 young buck. Got a mint green Beretta in high school. They are actually great guitars. Gosh darn it. Love this guitar. All right. Gosh darn it. Frere Jacques. There we go. This is a... probably made in Neptune, New Jersey. No. Hang on. I think that says made in Japan. Hang on a second. For the old eyes there, this is the worst part, is that even with glasses on, sometimes when it's tiny font... Let's take a look here. What are you saying there? Made in Japan. So this is probably made in the same factory that made ESPs. Great little guitar, though. All right, awesome. Nug, no pressure, of course. Do I have a guesstimate for when I might be able to drop this package on us? Great question. I do not have an estimate. But, you know, the 15-minute fundamentals, I don't know. And so what's happened is I'm working on a rigs course that's going to start production this next week. But the timeline for the production of that is going to be relatively tighter than some. But the other thing is I'm in pre-production for the next group of songs we've got to get out the door. I don't know if this would be the Fuji Gen factory. I actually, and I don't know for a fact that the ESPs aren't made in Fuji Gen, but I don't think they are. I think it's one of the other really cool factories in Japan. But I will have to do a little research, my dear friend. So cool. Probably some of my students are laughing. They notice I put the guitar on my right leg, which I actually almost never do. By the way, in closing, because I got to get out of here, I got a lesson I got to jump to, and I want to be prepared. The reason it's really good to put the guitar on your left leg is when you stand up with the strap on, that's about where the guitar sits. The other thing is if you think about the axis of your left arm, you can actually see it really well. When I'm at the top of the neck there, boom. If you look at how much distance between my elbow and my hand, and then over there, it's very kind of pretty close to where, if I were a straight line kind of there, you can see that it's pretty darn close to having this kind of, there I am about that far to the left, and there I am that far to the right. So as you get, let's take F. It gives you the full range of the neck without having to run into your gut there, your side. As you're gonna, so it's just a little bit more ergonomic. It's a lot more ergonomic. And again, the most important thing is when you stand up or sit down, the guitar is generally about in the same spot. And I've gone from wearing my strap a little bit lower. I don't believe in the guitar bib if I can avoid it. But sitting in a comfortable spot where whether I'm standing up or sitting down, the guitar sits in about the same spot and kind of adjusting with the shoulder and where the strap sits, so you can do that. And yes, the Japanese Strats. Nope, it's not here. The Japanese Strats are great. Played a bunch of the reissue Strats from the 80s and 90s from Japan, and they were great. It's not down here, but I actually have one of those. It's in champagne pink, and it's basically a reissue of a 58 slab board Strat. 58? No? That would make it a 64, 63 slab. Research. All that to say, I've got one that's a reissue of a 58. Maybe it's not a slab board then. But it's a great, great guitar. Really neat. And they kind of played beyond their price point, which is great. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out, making my day, as always. Thanks so much for warming my heart. I wish you a fabulous weekend, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks again, everybody. The lovely birthday wishes, all the great hanging out. Thank you very much. I will do so. Thank you so much, and much appreciated. Thank you. And you know, it always is neat to see the folks that hang out to the end, because it means that this time is not a valuable use of my time, but it's a valuable use of your time. And that is a great metric for me to measure things by. And, you know, Tony, you know, I kind of wanted to go, I knew I wanted to talk about the 3-note per string speed exercise, and the subdivisions and whatnot. So I'm really glad that it had a particularly great birth with you. I hope that yields lots of results. And for everybody, I really appreciate it. Gord, have a great one. Thank you so much. Must appreciate that. Much appreciated. Thank you so much. Thank you. Joran, awesome. Thank you. I received that. Thank you, my friend. Spencer, you are the bestest. I love you dearly, but you knew that. Rick, great to see you. Thanks so much. Everybody, again, much appreciated. Love hanging out with y'all. Thanks again. Make it a